just like seeing her for the first time.
Zhang Zhouing had only cleared a dungeon once, yet the mere act had already drawn everyone's attention. The reason was simple. He had openly admitted that he had knocked out the #1 S-rank hunter just moments ago. That single statement alone spread like wildfire among those who had witnessed it. Zhang Changha, who was present, had suggested that the male lead should take the blame for him. The reasoning behind such a strange request was not out of necessity, but rather out of curiosity. He wanted to witness the male lead's true abilities with his own eyes. Zhang Chang's perception of the world was different from that of ordinary hunters. His unique perspective came from the power of the dragon eyes, a rare gift he had obtained from the corpse of an errant monster, the green dragon. The dragon eyes were no ordinary relic. They not only amplified his magical power to terrifying levels, but also allowed him to see far into the distance, piercing through obstacles and illusions alike. Most importantly, they granted him the ability to measure and determine the awakening value of other hunters with a single glance. Since the moment he had fused with these eyes, Zhang Changha had never once squinted in uncertainty. There was nothing he could not clearly perceive. Yet not long ago, he had encountered someone who shook that confidence, the male lead. When Zhang Changha looked at him through the emerald glow of the dragon eyes, he discovered something entirely unexpected. Within the male lead's body, there existed an unusual flow of magical power, unlike anything he had ever seen before. That discovery alone compelled him to directly approach the mysterious man, demanding his name and his hunter level. When the response came that the other person was only an Efrong Zhang, Changa's first reaction was disbelief. It had to be a lie. No mere F-rank hunter could look directly into his dragon eyes without faltering. To ordinary people and low-level awakeners, a high-level hunter such as himself radiated an aura akin to that of a savage beast, exuding an instinctive, suffocating sense of threat. There was no way someone so weak could endure such pressure. To verify his suspicion, Zhang Changha deliberately went out of his way. He visited a convenience store he hadn't stepped into for a long time. There, he tested the power of his eyes on a clerk. As expected, the man grew pale and trembled uncontrollably in fear. That reaction was the natural response of someone encountering the gaze of the dragon eyes. For Zhang Changha, this confirmed that there was no possible way an F-rank could be so unfazed. The claim of being F-rank was nothing but nonsense. Intrigued, and admittedly amused, Zhang Changha decided to tease the male lead. He orchestrated a small staged accident, and afterward, he offered the man benefits that could be considered the best anyone had ever proposed to him. Yet throughout this entire exchange, the male lead's expression never wavered. His face remained like a mask, calm and unreadable, without even the slightest change in demeanor. That stoic indifference irritated Zhang Changha. He was an hunter, someone feared and respected by countless people. Yet in that moment, he felt as though he was being looked down upon. However, instead of growing furious, a strange satisfaction welled up inside him. After all, he was used to enduring all sorts of gazes from others' fear, awe, envy. But this man's unshaken indifference was something entirely different, something refreshing. And so Zhang Changha forced the male lead to take the blame. Not because he hated him, nor because he was incapable of resolving Zen Jackson's issue himself. On the contrary, he had more than enough ability to fix the matter. But he wanted to test the male lead. He wanted to see what this mysterious man was hiding behind that unreadable exterior, and how he would react to intimidation. What he had not expected, however, was the male lead's response. The man agreed, without hesitation. Just like that. This shocked Zhang Changha to his core. The answer exceeded every expectation he had, leaving him briefly speechless. From the male lead's face, there was not even the faintest trace of fear. Why had he agreed so readily? Was it because he wished to avoid conflict? Or perhaps there was another reason? Zhang Changha recalled that the man had once said he could not enter the Israng dungeon for now. He had never claimed that he had never been able to before. This phrasing gnawed at Zhang Changha's mind. Could it be that the male lead was deliberately suppressing his power all this time? If he truly was a high-level awakener, then restraining his true strength to such an extreme degree must have been unbearably uncomfortable. Zhang Chengha was tempted to continue pushing him, to keep provoking him until the truth was revealed. Yet in the end, he sighed inwardly and decided to stop for now. Enough for today, he thought. Let's leave this cursed place first. What Zhang Chengha did not know, however, was that beneath the male lead's calm, expressionless surface, there was chaos. His heart was racing, and deep down, he was panicking. He had survived the ordeal, but only barely. The three of them, male lead in front, Zhang Chengha supporting him, and Zhen Zhouing, trailing behind, walked slowly toward the exit of the dungeon instance. But when they finally stepped outside, the male lead's breath caught in his throat. Before him was a vast sea of people. Reporters crowded the exit in a dense swarm, their eyes instantly lighting up when they saw survivors emerge. In a frenzy, the sound of camera shutters erupted like gunfire, filling the air with relentless clicks. Excited voices rose above the chaos, reporters scrambling over one another to shout their questions. What kind of monsters were inside the empty gate? What level were they? Were there any other survivors? In that instant, the male lead understood. No wonder so many people had gathered here. The dungeon's exits were concentrated in this very place. But before he could utter a single word, the reporters suddenly fell into stunned silence. Their eyes widened in disbelief as they witnessed Zhang Chengha carrying an unconscious Zhen Zhouing out from the empty gate to S ranks. One of them muttered in shock. But why has Zhen Zhouing fainted? At that very moment, association staff rushed forward. Their faces were tense with urgency as they hurried to ask about the situation. The first question was immediate and direct. Why had Zhen Zhouing lost consciousness? Their initial theory was that he had been struck by some hidden device within the empty gate. Yet Zhang Chengha, with calm indifference, turned his gaze toward the male lead and casually said, "We had a little friction while choosing the sacrifice, so he knocked him out." The male lead froze, utterly speechless, lying right after leaving the dungeon. Really, he thought bitterly. The staff, of course, did not believe such a claim. It was far more plausible that Zhang Chengha himself had attacked Zhen Zhouing rather than some unknown hunter they had never heard of. And indeed, their instincts were correct. But even so, the suspicion directed toward him clearly left Zhang Chengha displeased. His emerald dragon eyes flashed as he turned his sharp gaze upon the male lead. "Don't just stand there. Say something." The intensity of that stare made cold sweat trickle down the male lead's neck. For a long moment, he hesitated, but in the end, he answered expressionlessly, "I knocked him out." The words sent a shockwave through the gathered crowd. Both association staff and reporters alike gasped audibly. The male lead quickly added that he had not meant any harm, that he had only put Zhen Zhouing to sleep so they could safely clear the dungeon, and that he would personally apologize when Zhen awoke. Yet no matter how he tried to explain, it was nearly impossible to believe. After all, a hunter below S rank simply did not have the ability to incapacitate someone as powerful as Zhen Zhouing, and then, to deepen the illusion, Zhang Chengha feigned weakness. His body swayed as he gasped for breath, putting on the appearance of someone severely injured. With his hand clutching his side, he looked at the staff and said hoarsely, "In my current state, how could I have possibly attacked Zhen Zhouing?" The staff fell silent. It was true that Zhang Chengha had lost a lot of blood inside the empty gate, but the male lead knew better. He remembered clearly it hadn't been that bad. This man was faking before he could dwell on it further. The reporters surged forward, like a tidal wave, swarming around him with microphones and cameras thrust into his face. "Did you really knock out an S? How did you do it? What's your true rank?" Their questions were endless. The male lead's voice cut coldly through the noise. "I did it." Meanwhile, in a hospital room far away, Zhen Zhouing slowly regained consciousness. His body still ached, but his mind was sharper than ever. As he scrolled through the countless reports about what had happened, his expression darkened, his fists clenched tightly, veins bulging with rage. That man, that insignificant hunter, dared to humiliate me like this. He could not accept it. The man was clearly nothing more than a low-level hunter, an F rank, and yet, somehow, he had become the center of attention, even attracting the gaze of the strongest S-rank hunters themselves. Just moments ago, Rang had invited the male lead to join him for dinner. The previous news articles about the incident had already been taken down, but Rang had seen them before their deletion. His curiosity burned. He wanted to confirm whether it was really true that the male lead had knocked out Zhenjiang. When the male lead responded, his answer caught Rang completely off guard. "I guess that counts," the male lead replied calmly, but as soon as those words left his lips, his phone rang. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Just moments ago, the food on the table had smelled delicious, warm and inviting, but suddenly it felt tasteless and heavy. His expression stiffened when he saw the caller's name on the screen. It was none other than the very victim himself, Zhang Jiang. The male lead stood up slowly, forcing a faint smile. "Go ahead and eat first," he told Rang. "I'll take this outside." He walked away from the table and stepped aside to answer the call, leaving Rang and Ran Shang sitting together in an awkward silence. The purpose of Zhang Yong's call was direct and simple. His voice was low, rough, carrying both suspicion and restrained anger. He wanted to know the truth about the empty gate incident. Did the male lead truly knock him unconscious? The event had happened so suddenly that Zhenjiang couldn't remember the details. His memory of the process was fragmented, but based on instinct, he thought the culprit should have been Zhang Changhe. Yet he wasn't sure. What troubled him most was the final image before he blacked out the sight of the male lead's unusual, piercing gaze. That look had seared itself into his memory, and now he demanded an explanation. The male lead froze, his back growing damp. With cold sweat, "This is bad," he thought. Should he confess that Zhang Changhe had threatened him to take the blame? But even if he spoke the truth, could Zhang Jiang be trusted? After all, Zhang Jiang was not hailed as a national hero because of righteousness or justice. It was simply because of his overwhelming achievements in clearing a staggering number of empty gates. Far more than anyone else. In the end, Zhenjiang was just a workaholic who cared only for dungeons. Would such a man go out of his way to protect a lowly F-rank like him? Finally, the male lead sighed. He admitted it. "Zhenjiang, I'm sorry, it was me. I was the one who knocked you out." His words were heavy, deliberate. He quickly added an explanation, saying that he never wanted to see Zhenjiang overwork himself to the point of collapse. His plan had been to shoulder the burden, to act as the sacrifice, and to offer all the dungeon rewards as an apology. But his explanation only made Zhenjiang's veins bulge in fury. "Are you expletive kidding me?" Zhenjiang snapped. "This could have been resolved through a simple conversation. And now you tell me you wanted to settle it with some cheap reward item." His voice thundered with disbelief. No one in their right mind would accept being knocked unconscious, under the excuse of "for your own good." To him, such an action was insulting. Even more suspiciously, Zhang Changhe and the male lead had known each other from the beginning. That alone made Zhang Yang suspect the two of being in cahoots. His tone grew sharper as he delivered the most important question. "Tell me, are you really an S-rank hunter?" The male lead was silent. Words hovered on his lips. He wanted to say that he had his reasons, but Zhenjiang had no patience left. "Enough," Zhenjiang muttered coldly. "Continuing this is pointless." He looked out the window, his eyes sharp with resolve. "I'll be keeping my eyes on you from now on." Without waiting for a reply, he ended the call abruptly. The male lead lowered his phone slowly, his expression complicated, his palms still damp with sweat. Meanwhile, Zhang Yang sat in his office, exhaling deeply to calm himself. He turned to his assistant, who had been waiting quietly the whole time. "Sorry to keep you waiting," Zhenjiang said. The assistant chuckled awkwardly and shook his head. "It's fine." He handed over a thick folder of documents. "Here's all the information you requested." Although the guild was preparing to take official action, the articles online had already been deleted. Still, what needed to be seen had already been seen. And sure enough, countless voices mocking and disparaging Zhenjiang had appeared online. The assistant suggested that he avoid reading the comments, but Zhenjiang was not so fragile. He wasn't concerned about insults. What mattered more was the bigger picture. The world had now seen undeniable proof that even S-rank hunters were not invincible. That revelation would sow unease across the population, and the one responsible for this entire mess, the assistant guest, Jang Chongha. Additionally, the assistant had done a deeper check into the male lead's identity. On paper, he truly was just an F-rank. Initially, Zhang Yang believed it. But if that was the case, why would Zhang bother keeping him alive? Why threaten him into taking the blame instead of simply killing him? More importantly, when Zhenjiang recalled the male lead's eyes just before losing consciousness, a chill ran down his spine. Those eyes had been inhumanly devoid of emotion. Since his awakening, Zhenjiang had never once seen such a gaze in another hunter. It carried a disturbing sense of incongruity, something alien that alone made him suspect that the male lead's rank was fabricated. Contact the association, Zhenjiang ordered. Apply for a revaluation of his awakening value. His assistant nodded immediately. Among awakeners, the supernatural powers they wield are commonly referred to as skills. At the moment of awakening, every hunter would at least acquire one. But magic on Earth was bound by certain restrictions. For example, Zhenjiang, whose attribute was fire, could never learn any other type of elemental magic no matter how hard he tried. The only alternative was to purchase skill stones at an exorbitant price. But the male lead was different. In truth, he was someone who had reincarnated, carrying knowledge of countless magical arts. Theoretically, as long as conditions were met, he could wield any type of magic that existed on Earth. However, his body carried a flawless serious lung condition that prevented mana from merging properly. Because of this, his talents could not fully manifest. To solve this, he had devised a method to create a magic amplifier, but the materials required to construct such a device were rare and tightly controlled, most of them hoarded by the guild, with the largest number of hunters. The one known as the Magic Tower. At this moment, the male lead stood outside the Magic Tower, staring up at its colossal structure. He had already been here yesterday, only to be turned away. The staff had dismissed him with disdain, refusing entry to anyone without an appointment. Today, it seemed the same would happen again until, suddenly, his younger brother, Ran Shang, appeared. It turned out the male lead had asked Ran Shang to help him secure an appointment. As a well-known first-level hunter, Ran Shang's application was easily accepted. The staff's attitude shifted immediately. The impatience on their faces vanished the moment they saw Ran Shang. For one of them happened to be a fan. Their expressions brightened, and conversation flowed with newfound enthusiasm. Ran Shang explained that he had already scheduled an appointment with the Magic Tower's representative through the guild. Thanks to this, the male lead was finally able to step inside without resistance. The staff even apologized for their behavior the day before. Together, the two walked to the front desk. The receptionist confirmed the appointment and informed them that the representative awaited them on the top floor. They were instructed to take the elevator up on their own. The ride was quiet, filled with an air of anticipation. When the elevator doors opened at the highest floor, the scene that greeted them made both men stiffen in shock. The male lead's breath caught, and cold sweat trickled down his neck. Something's wrong here. And indeed, on the top floor of the Magic Tower, a girl with striking red hair stood waiting.